If you have a multilingual store, you need to translate in one or more languages. So to do so, you go to Translation tab, and we currently support only Langify as the app to translate. But so what this translation does inside Moosync is that each piece of data that you import via the Moosync app, for example, the product title, the description, the tags, the collections, etc., can be translated inside the same CSV file. For example, you would have a column for the French product title and a column for the English product title and a column for the Spanish product title. Or you could also have two different files. For example, one English file, which is the one that you already set up, the default language, and a French CSV file for the content that needs to be translated in French. Obviously, not every column or every field needs translation. For example, the pricing, the quantity, etc. They are numbers. They don't need to. They're not text, so you don't need to add columns or add a new file for these. But if you want to translate some stuff automatically, which is the beauty of it, so you won't need to go inside Langify each time to translate the new product titles that you just added or the new description. You go to Translation tab, you select Langify, you click on Add Language, you add the language name. That doesn't really matter, it's just for you to be able to distinguish the default English to the language that you're translating. What matters is the Langify language ID that is there. If you go to the Langify app, you will get an ID that usually or always start with LY, followed by 4 or 5 or 6 numbers. So you put it there, and you select the same file if you have one single CSV file, so one data feed, and inside this data feed, inside this CSV file, you have English columns and French columns, or you select a separate file that you can download via URL, and you put the URL there, or you select FTP, which is not appearing here because I selected URL download previously. But anyway, so you have the same file or you use separate files in order to manage your translation. Then you click on Fetch Column, and it will display something like that. So you have the URL and you have the English columns. This store is in French by default, and you can see all the French columns, so the columns from the first and original and default data feed, and here you see the columns of the English. So I need to map them one by one. So inside this example, I have the same names, the same column titles inside my French and my English CSV, so I just select the same exact thingy and go on until the very bottom where I click Save Translation Settings. Once I'm done, then I run an import or an update, and I will have the data in both languages. The next step will be to edit your theme files in order to be able to display what you have as data imported, because every theme is different, and we will add here a section where we display instructions or a link to a blog post where we have instructions or on how to edit your theme files in order to really display both languages. When you switch, for example, in Langify, when you switch from English to French, you will need some theme modifications over the top over the Langify strings in order to be able to display the French and English data from your CSV.